Hey guys, we're back. This time we're going to be looking at Rush and Bash from Red Glove. And it's a really fun, light, I guess the best way to describe it is Mario Kart in board game form. It's based loosely on the old Hanna-Barbera cartoon, The Wacky Races. So if you're familiar with that.
And now here they are, the most daredevil group of daffy drivers to ever whirl their wheels in the Wacky Races, competing for the title of the world's wackiest racer.
It's really interesting, fun. It has similarities to Formula D, but not nearly as serious. This is much more light, fun, fast-paced. There are no dice rolling to move. It's all done through card play. And the tracks can be customized because they're in little tile form. Lots of neat little things in there. New expansion for this came out recently that added some cool new stuff. Winter is Now, I think it's called. That actually got me to look into it. That's when I found the base game. And so far, I've loved everything about it. The car components, the player tokens, are a bit cheap, kind of generic. It would have been cooler if they were molded to at least resemble the characters instead of being a generic one used for all of them, just color-coded. But anyway, lots of stuff in this little box. It comes with a absolutely terrible and useless insert, so you're probably going to rip that out first thing. But the box itself has some neat things in there. Lots of tokens, no place to put them. And we'll get in and take a look. So right on top here, you're going to notice it's a lot more organized than I kind of ranted about earlier. Because I've organized it myself, it doesn't come that way. We got our rule book here. Shows a components list on the front. Some basic assembly for some of the 3D components. Yes, there's 3D components in this. Quick overview of what everything on the tiles looks like. A track example of how to build. I wish there were more of those in here. They should have dedicated a page later on to like a bunch of basic layouts for tracks. That would have been nice to have. There are resources. BGG, I think, has some people posted some tracks up there, so you can check those out or design your own. And a quick overview of what all of the cards are and what they do. And some extra rules in the back for bonus things, add-ons, special rules for specific tiles. These ones are actually numbered for the tiles. And basically it lets you customize and do whatever you want with the game, which is cool. Now the insert itself is kind of weird. First thing they have of these, and originally I think I tore mine because I opened this. I thought maybe it was like a storage box to pull the top open and put tokens in, but it's not. It's basically a spacer that's built into the box to keep stuff from shifting around, which would sound cool if they had some functional use. It's just basically wasted space. If that was the case, they could have made the box that much smaller, done the same thing. So, like I said, most useless insert I've seen, and it's really flimsy. It's made out of pretty thin paperboard, basically, that's folded over. Mine actually came with this piece is all mutilated. This is all bent here, so don't expect to keep the insert for long. It does come with a ton of components, which are all thrown in here. First thing we have are our cards. Game, instead of using dice, uses cards as your movement. There are 2 decks, which could be slightly different colored. They're very similar in color. I guess they look a lot different when you really look at them, but sitting on the table, if you look over quick, they're very similar. Looking at them now through the camera, they're obviously different, but one is the standard deck and one is the fast deck. The game has a built-in catch-up mechanic, basically, that once somebody's in the lead, they can only draw their cards from the slower deck, where the people behind can use the faster deck, which is a built-in catch-up mechanic, so nobody gets a huge extended runaway lead. So the cards have basic things on them that you're going to do throughout the game. Bombs, missiles, steering, and repairing, and the stars. Those are different actions you can do, and the number on the bottom is how many spaces you can move. So you're basically going to steer a lane, move 1 space with that. This allows you to place a bomb, move 2 spaces, and so on. And the ones in the faster deck are the same thing, just with higher numbers on the bottom. The slower deck consists of 1s, 2s, and 3s for the amount of spaces you're going to move. While the faster deck has in it 3s, 4s, and 5s. The card-based movement is a really cool feature of the game. A lot of people hate roll and move games. Formula D kind of compensates for it a bit in the fact that there's minimum numbers on the dice. So depending on what gear you're in, you cannot roll below a certain number. So it's mitigated a bit. Next thing we have here are our player cards. And these kind of have a quick overview of the characters. And Lady Goodlight here is actually directly out of... You can see her there. She's directly out of the Wacky Races. Some of the other characters are kind of just spoofs on general things. I don't think that was her name in there for trademark reasons, but... Anyway, on the back side of these, they have a fluff story basically about the characters. On the flip side, up here you have your hit points and your star meter. As you do things throughout the game or you get the star cards, you're going to raise up these stars. As you raise them up, you gain access to new abilities. Each driver has completely different and unique abilities to that driver, which are kind of cool. Makes them all a bit unique and feel different in the game. Here we have the first of our 3D components. This one's actually the starting line. Allows you to mark the start-finish line on your map so you can see it easily from anywhere on the table. Next 3D component is the Volcano. This one actually has trouble standing up. I think the base needed to be slightly bigger, but it serves its purpose. It actually has special rules on the tile it goes on for the track. The next one's actually our bridge. And the bridge has two different layouts. That's why it's apart. It also fits in the box better, but you can use this one with the boost lightning bolts on the top or without, depending on the track you want to build and how complicated you want to be. These snap together like that. I'm a little worried that snapping it together and taking it apart is going to wear over time, but the way it sits on there, even if it wears a bit, it should gravity should just hold it in place while you're playing. But that lets you loop a section of track over top of another section of track and basically close your circuits. Depending on the tiles you use, you can make things like a figure 8 and whatnot using that. Next we have the player turn order things. These can, you put tokens on here to differentiate who's going in what order. And they have these for all the player accounts. There's 3 player, all the way up to 6 player. I'm not sure why they made multiple. You could have just used the 6 player one and only used 1, 2, and 3 if you were playing with 3 players. Seems kind of strange, but it does differentiate on there. Depending on the position you're in, it tells you what deck you're going to be drawing from. We have 6 player tokens in the color coding for the various characters. Again, these use generic helmet icons instead of the actual characters. Would have been nice to see the actual characters on there. These are what go on that turn order thing to differentiate who's going when. It's one of those things, a little bit extra effort to make those the actual characters would have gone a long way to making the game feel a bit less generic. We also have a token for this guy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he basically runs around and causes havoc on one of the track tiles. Ugly Snout, that's his name. As we have some teleport markers. These again do not come with these bags. I put them in there. These can be used to make teleport points from one point to another, one lane to another spot. So you can really make some interesting and unique track layouts. Very confusing on these for some players. They didn't understand how they worked or how to set them up. But basically, you match 2 numbers. You land on the space with one tile with the number on it. You teleport to the other one with the same number. So you can put these anywhere on the track. So instead of having to make a closed circuit, you can make a track that's a straight line. And you just drive to the end, teleport back to the beginning. Drive to the end, teleport back to the beginning. It just gives you more options when designing your tracks. These boost markers, they're one of the special rules. They go on the track, give you a little bit of burst of speed. Anybody who's ever played a racing video game has seen these. Like again, another nod to Mario Kart. These are our star trackers. Each player is going to get one of these star trackers. They're used to keep track of your abilities as you power up on your player board. We have our bombs. These are going to get laid out throughout the track. They blow up, dealing damage to everything around them. Next we have our hearts. Every player gets a heart to go on their player board, keeps track of their health. If you run out of health during the game, you basically wreck and go off track. Kind of like Mario Kart, if you think about that. The little guy with the hook on the cloud comes and gets you, takes you back to the previous checkpoint, and you start with this on the lowest point. So you start with one heart again, and you go from there. You can repair to move your heart back up, so you can take more hits. Finally, we have a bunch of boulders here. These are obstacles that end up on the track. You can crash into them. They can be blown up with weapons and things. And basically hindrances. I've seen a lot of people replace the actual tokens in this game with actual rocks and things like that. Make it more Mario Kart-ish. Some 3D components never hurt. Next we have the rules, what is it? The judge's measuring ruler. And this is used on the tiles. Every tile has a pair of these glasses. And you use the ruler to determine who's in what position by measuring from the glasses. And these are my disappointment with the game are the player tokens. They are generic, just cars. They kind of remind me, now there are even cheaper versions of those, but they kind of remind me of the original Formula D pieces. I mean, they're functional for what they do. It would have been nice to see them take the time to mold something a little bit nicer, specific to each of the characters instead of just color-coded. And then, of course, you get a standard D6, mostly used for randomization. Then we have our track tokens. The game comes with a lot of track tokens. I think there's 12 here, and these can be used in any combination to build your course. See there, we have turns. Some of them have various obstacles on them. There's a split in the road. There's a volcano on one. Depending on what you're building, there's a cute one with a shortcut. On these ones that have arrows on there, if you're going the direction of the track that the arrow is pointing, you get a free turn, basically, to move. So in this case, if you were in this space here, you'd be able to move to that space for free, switching lanes. However, if you're going the opposite direction of the arrows, to move from this space to this space would require a turn card to take that little shortcut. And then on the flip side of all of these is more advanced tracks. And they have things like the lightning bolts. They have much more rocks, hazards, and things like that. They can be used to make much more treacherous courses. Some of these can be used alone for various things, depending on what they are. Some of them have to be used together. There's special rules for all of the track tiles in the back of the rule book, so check that out. And in the bottom of the box, we can actually say it's kind of funny. All the effort and work they took to make the inside of the box look cool, but they used just such a cheap material to do it that I don't know how long it's going to last or if I'm even going to keep it that way. I'm not really going to go into the gameplay. I think it's pretty self-explanatory how it works. Depending on the position you're in, you draw a card, you play cards from your hand to move or perform various actions, deploy weapons and things like that. You're trying to do a certain number of laps to get back to the start-finish line, which is, of course, marked by our start-finish. Oh, yeah, you can't even see it on the camera there. Your 3D start-finish token. And it's pretty quick, simple, and easy to figure out the basics of the game. It's really fun, light, fast to play. It does take a bit in setup in order to actually build the tracks, depending on what you're using and how complicated you want to be with things. Storage of the components is a little difficult because of the 3D things, so you got to figure out some kind of storage solution, and of course bags for all your tokens. Overall though, Russian Bash is a fun, light little game. It says so right on the box even. And I completely agree with it. Easy to learn, easy to pick up, great to play with kids. If you don't like that roll and move games, if you like Formula D and you want something a bit lighter, if you like Mario Kart, you're going to like it. You're going to have a lot of fun with it. It does take a bit to set up, especially your first few times, to get an idea of what kind of tracks you want to build and how complicated you want to make them. Once you have that down, you can set them up pretty quick. You play a game, it's quick, it's fast, it's fun, and you'll be dying to play another one. The catch-up mechanics built in there, so nobody has a runaway leader, so it's always a competitive game. You're switching back and forth, who's in front, who's in second. Some people may like that, some people might not. I know there's a lot of competitive people out there like Formula D. They like getting half a lap lead on people, and then they can slow down and take their time. And this is all, that card-based movement mechanic really makes a difference in the game, too, as far as how competitive play gets. It's all based on what you draw and where the position that you're in as to what you can do and how fast you're going to be going, and it all comes together to just make a really fun game. And can't wait to get my hands on the expansion and see what that adds to it. I know it's got the wintry roads and things, but I've heard there's some other stuff in there as well. So that's going to be interesting to see. Keep an eye out for that video when it comes. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.